have Chaplain Don Stiller with us this morning, who's going to lead us off in a short prayer. Don?
Thank you so much. Chaplain Thompson couldn't be here this morning, and I just thank the Lord and the Sheriff's Department for the opportunity to be able to ask him for things that he's graciously and willingly said, when we ask, we shall receive. And so we have over 300 volunteers that pray for this office every week, and it's an awesome opportunity to see all you, especially lineups, and it's really great. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Father, we just thank you for your blessings and your goodness to us. We know, Lord, it all depends upon you, and we ask you for your guidance and your leadership, and for the safety of our service and our service people. And Father, we thank you, Lord, for their diligence and their effort. We ask you now to guide in this event, and Lord, we just give you the praise and the honor and the glory in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen, Don. Thank you very much. As I always say, we can't do our job without the assistance of our community and other agencies. And this morning I'm going to recognize someone from another agency, Lisa Van Der Peer. Come on up, Lisa. Good morning. How are you? Good. Lisa is an analyst for the Drug Enforcement Administration and is assigned to the Port St. Lucie office. She has worked tirelessly for well over a year assisting our detectives and agents with DEA on an operation called Spot Remover. Lisa was able to produce hundreds of subpoenas for phones, bank records, rental car agreements, and other documents. The amount of phone information collected was staggering. The investigation of various phone numbers was analyzed. Lisa took this information and determined the identity of all the incoming and outgoing calls. After several months, a clear picture of the organization was developed. Lisa made and kept an ongoing chart complete with photos, criminal history, and ranking in the organization. During the intercept part of the investigation, Lisa would go through all the calls intercepted on a daily basis and extract any new information. If an unknown phone number was discovered, she entered it into the system and issued a subpoena to identify the caller. This activity was a constant and ongoing process. Those calls were summarized and placed in reference books for use during the ongoing investigation and for prosecution purposes. Ms. Van Der Peer is a true team player and is a tremendous asset to this investigation. Thank you for your assistance to this office, and we're giving you a St. Lucie Sheriff's Office Commendation Certificate. Thank you. Before we have Major Thompson come up, we have Assistant Chief Frank Amandro. Frank, you still here? Oh, right here. I'm sorry. Come on up, and he's going to recognize a few of our employees also.
It really goes with Officer Holmes.
Okay, awesome.
Well, so, go ahead. Good afternoon, everyone. It's certainly a pleasure to be here. On behalf of the Fort Pierce Police Department and Chief Sean Baldwin, I wanted to recognize two deputies in their assistance with a life-saving award that happened earlier this year. On July 1st, 2014, Fort Pierce Police Department Officer Keith Holmes responded with the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office, St. Lucie County Sheriff Deputy Sean Kane, and the U.S. Coast Guard Petty Officer First Class Wesley, I'm sorry about the last name, Samsonot, to swimmers. Samasuk. To swimmers in distress and stranded on the jetty rocks at the Inland State Park. Upon arrival, they observed 5 young females yelling for help. They were being battered by waves and wind against the rocks. Working together, the team deployed a swimmer and rescued all 5 victims. The quick actions by these officers saved their lives. You are committed for your life-saving action and protecting our community. So if those two individuals can come up, I'd be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, sure. Sadly, Sean just got called out. There was a boat beached in Jensen Beach with, I think, with some illegals. So he's just on the way to that.
And if we could go ahead and have Officer Holmes come up also. I know you're here.
This is the team right here.
This is the whole team. The sheriff is also recognizing the Fort Pierce officers. And so if Officer Holmes, you could come on up. And then, as the sheriff said, Deputy Kane got called to duty probably 30 minutes before the ceremony started, and unfortunately, he is out in the boat looking for a stranded boat right now. So.
Now, Major Thompson.
Thank you, Chief Amondro. Appreciate you being here. It's my distinct pleasure to introduce the law enforcement deputy of the quarter, Todd Meslin. Todd, if you'd come up. Deputy Meslin's been a member of our office since June of 2003. He is currently assigned to midnight shift where he serves as a float deputy. He's also had assignments as a detective and school resource deputy and a detention deputy. During this quarter, Deputy Meslin completed 12 misdemeanor, 14 felony, and 2 warrant arrests, and also served as a field training officer. One snapshot of Deputy Meslin's productivity occurred on May 6. Deputies were responding to a shots fired call on Avenue K. They found the residence was shot 4 times with projectiles entering the residence. On a hunch, or what we like to say, keen police work, Deputy Meslin requested that a canine respond and start a canine track. The track was taken directly to Sloan Road, which is coincidentally the residence of a suspect who was mentioned by the victims on Avenue K. In the suspect's bedroom, a revolver and ammunition was located. Several spent casings were found in the trash can outside. This arrest also produced, through ballistic matching, the closure of 2 other shooting cases in St. Lucie County. Sometimes we often forget the compassionate side of law enforcement, and Deputy Meslin also exhibits that. One example of that is on April 6, he stopped out with a broken down vehicle. The vehicle owner had no money for gas. Out of kindness and out of his own pocket, Deputy Meslin bought gas for the owner. On May 2nd, Deputy Meslin was talking with a homeless man on North 2nd Street. He determined he was down on his luck. He gave them $20 of his own money and for food at the 7-Eleven. So, Deputy Meslin, thank you, and a well-deserved honor. This next award is for a Combat Cross, Deputy Edward Lopez and Deputy Christopher Newman. On January 14th, 2014, Deputies Chris Newman and Ed Lopez were dispatched to Francis K. Sweet Elementary School in reference to a loud music complaint. A concerned parent reported someone in a nearby residence was broadcasting loud and vulgar music in the vicinity of the school as the children were being dismissed. The music was loud enough to make radio communication difficult for the responding deputies as they began investigating the complaint. Initial attempts to contact the resident were unsuccessful as knocks on the front door went unanswered. The deputies continued their attempts to make contact with someone inside the residence. While making this attempt, the deputies observed the garage door to the residence open. Once the door was open, the deputies were confronted by an adult male holding a pistol. The deputies gave the suspect orders to disarm. However, the suspect was not compliant. The suspect then raised the pistol in an attempt to shoot Deputy Lopez. Deputy Newman immediately knew his partner was in danger of losing his life. Deputy Newman was also aware that there were children on the school property behind him that were in direct line of fire to the suspect's gun. Disregarding his own safety, Deputy Newman fired at the armed suspect. The suspect was successful in closing the garage door before Deputies Newman and Lopez could be certain that he had been neutralized. Fearing for the safety of the children across the street, they made arrangements to set up a secure perimeter around the residence. They also notified dispatch to make arrangements to have the school locked down to ensure the safety of the children. A subsequent investigation revealed that the suspect was in possession of a stolen semi-automatic pistol. His blood alcohol was nearly 5 times the legal limit, and he was on felony probation at the time of the incident. Deputy Lopez's effective radio communication during this armed encounter enabled a swift law enforcement response to prevent any further loss of life. Deputy Newman's swift and decisive action prevented the suspect from being able to take the life of Deputy Lopez. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your service. The Life-Saving Award, Deputy Ben DeBlick, Deputy Todd Meslin, Deputy Chris Mock, and Deputy Matt Woods. Todd, are you going for a hat trick today? On May 24th at 12:37 a.m., Deputy Todd Meslin was dispatched to Palm Drive regarding suicidal threats. The complainant stated that she had an argument with her friend, Joanne Hannigan. Hannigan had left the residence on foot after making suicidal threats and was armed with a knife. Hannigan was reported to be severely depressed and displayed a knife in a self-threatening manner in front of her young daughters. She had also left a suicide note. Additional patrol and canine deputies responded to assist with the search for Hannigan. While searching the area, Deputy Matt Woods and his canine located Hannigan sitting in a ditch. Hannigan immediately brandished the knife and put it in her wrist. As additional units responded, Deputy Woods took command of the scene. Deputy Chris Mock outfitted himself with specialty impact munitions as Deputy Meslin began a dialogue with Hannigan. Simultaneously, Deputy Woods, Meslin, Mock, and DeBlick and canine, moved to the strategic positions to protect Hannigan and each other. Deputy Meslin talked Hannigan into disarming herself, and she threw the knife away. The teamwork of these 4 deputies utilized was second to none. They worked together to resolve this issue in the best interest of Hannigan, the public, and themselves. Excellent job, gentlemen. We have a Commendation Award, Deputy Mark Geisler and Canine Jacks, Deputy Sean Masters and Canine Gunner. On July 2nd at 12:30 a.m., Fort Pierce Police Department and St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office responded to the area of Pine Avenue regarding an armed robbery. The description included the suspect, the direction of travel, and that the suspect had an AK-47 rifle and a .380 caliber revolver. Both canine deputies responded to assist with the perimeter positions. As they pulled up near the 2300 block of Cortez Boulevard, the suspect was observed in a grassy area. The suspect was still armed. Deputy Mark Geisler gave an order announcing his presence and gave a canine warning to the suspect. The suspect refused to give up and ran into a wooded portion of the yard on Cortez Boulevard. Deputy Geisler released Canine Jacks as the armed suspect was fleeing on foot. Jacks apprehended the suspect. The suspect had dropped the AK-47 rifle but was still armed with the .380 caliber handgun. Deputy Sean Masters put his dog Gunner on the ground to search the area for the rifle and located it, still loaded, along with other items taken during the robbery. Their performance led to the apprehension of an armed, violent gang member and took 2 guns off the street. Thanks for a job well done, gentlemen. Commendation Award for SIU.
Deputy Ronald Sassano was a dedicated, hardworking, detail-oriented deputy assigned to the Department of Detention. While conducting his day-to-day duties, he pays close attention to the environment surrounding him. He is constantly on the lookout for potential dangers to staff as well as inmates. Deputy Sassano takes the personal initiative to complete tasks without them being assigned to him. An example of his attention to detail occurred on May 19th. A fellow deputy removed a non-compliant inmate from his dorm. Without being summoned, Deputy Sassano responded and assisted with securing the inmate. Deputy Sassano began a systematic search of the inmate's property. He discovered a complete tattoo kit hidden within the inmate's personal belongings. The kit contained several stencils, tubes of ink, a bottle of cleaning solution, and 5 tattoo needles. Due to his personal work ethic, Deputy Sassano was able to discover and remove this contraband from the facility, keeping everybody safe. Mr. Sassano, congratulations. Keep up the good work. Now for our life-saving award. I have Deputy Derek Knudsen, Deputy David Malagloka, Deputy Stephen Paceris, and Deputy Brian Shackley. Come on. On June 6th, while inside one of the housing units, a trustee informed Deputy Brian Shackley that another inmate named Drayton James was getting ready to jump off the top tier. Deputy Shackley advised the tower deputies, Stephen Paceris and David Malagloka, of the situation. Deputies Shackley, Malagloka, and Knudsen entered the dorm to remove the inmate. Drayton James was sitting on the top of the right stairwell. Deputy Shackley began speaking to James, trying to get him to exit the dorm. Deputies Malagloka and Knudsen went up the left stairwell to position themselves in case the inmate did attempt to jump off the tier. As Deputies Malagloka and Knudsen approached, James stood up with his hands under his shirt. They ordered him to show his hands. He resisted all attempts to be saved and seemed determined to kill himself. These deputies decided to take James to the ground to prevent someone from falling down the stairs. Thanks to their swift actions, they prevented James from completing his attempted suicide. James was escorted to medical and placed on suicide watch. Due to their diligence, we prevented this inmate from killing himself. Great job, guys. The Exceptional Duty Award. I have Master Deputy Steve Byrne. Is he here? On April 10th at 1 a.m., Master Deputy Steve Byrne was driving home and observed 2 to 3 suspicious young males hanging around a vehicle at a residence near his home. He confronted them and was able to apprehend one of the males while the others fled the area. Master Deputy Byrne called 911. When Port St. Lucie Police Department arrived, they found several vehicles in the neighborhood had been burglarized. The Port St. Lucie Police Department took custody of the 13-year-old. Master Deputy Byrne remained vigilant and was able to observe the return of the other suspects to the area. The remaining suspects were looking for the male who was arrested. Master Deputy Byrne called 911 and the remaining suspects were arrested. Thanks to his actions, no further theft or damage was caused by these offenders. Mr. Byrne, thank you very much. Our Distinguished Service Award, Kevin Perkins. Deputy Perkins, on his own personal accord, participated in the Tour de Force bicycle ride to raise money for families of fellow fallen officers in the state of Florida. The Tour de Force encompasses a 5-day bicycle ride from North Miami to Dayton Beach, Florida. Deputy Perkins devoted his own personal time to physically train and prepare his body to endure the 270-mile ride for this event. In addition, he raised money for the spouses of fallen law enforcement officers. Just last month, Deputy Perkins participated in another ride, the 2014 Brotherhood Ride from Naples, Florida to St. Lucie County and back to Naples in honor of Sergeant Gary Morales. Deputy Perkins showed his inner devotion and dedication to all law enforcement officers of the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office and to those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. Mr. Perkins, thank you. Our Commendation Award. I have Deputy Jose Angulo, Deputy Gwendolyn Boswell, Deputy Roberto Contreras, Deputy Constant Joseph, Deputy Donald Palfrey, Deputy Rui Rodriguez, Deputy Raul Santiago, Deputy Ronald Sassano, Deputy Walter Scott, and Deputy Kendrick Thomas. On June 18, 2014, at 1:30 a.m., a fire system pipe broke in the Delta North Dorm 5 area of the jail. Water poured out of the walls between cells B and C, causing the cells on the lower tier to flood. Once the call was made for assistance, staff immediately arrived, ready to take action. The water was shut off, and the deputies in Delta South made arrangements to move all the inmates to clear out the cells in the confined dorms. The inmates in Delta North, Dorm 5, are high-risk inmates and can be a management problem at any time. One of the inmates is facing a murder charge and has mental health issues. 2 of the inmates are sentenced to life without parole for murder, and another is facing multiple murder charges. Due to these circumstances, there was a potential for extreme violence. These deputies showed a great level of patience in this stressful situation, as multiple moves had to be made to accomplish the goal of keeping these high-risk inmates housed alone. The inmates were moved from their cells to the security enclosures and then to new housing without incident. This was accomplished in a timely manner, and these deputies displayed dedication and commitment to the excellence in handling this event. Gentlemen, thank you. For our Distinguished Service Award, Deputy Joseph Acosta and Deputy Matthew Van Etten. On May 18th at approximately 11:30 hours, Deputy Matthew Van Etten and Joseph Acosta were going to pick up lunch for their shift. They were traveling southbound on Kings Highway returning to the jail. A yellow Jeep Wrangler and black Lincoln Blackwood truck had been in a head-on collision. The Jeep and Lincoln collided with full frontal contact. The Lincoln front end collapsed, trapping the driver. Deputies Van Etten and Acosta were the first on scene. They assisted an adult female and her baby who were trying to get out of the Lincoln, and an adult male coming out of the Jeep's passenger door. The driver of the Jeep had broken bones, and the female had visible injuries from deployment of the airbags. The driver of the Lincoln was trapped. Van Etten and Acosta called for rescue and backup. When rescue arrived, Van Etten and Acosta were still the only law enforcement officers on scene. They cleared the traffic, made room for rescue vehicles, and diverted family members who started to arrive, wanting to go into the crash scene. Deputies Van Etten and Acosta made excellent decisions and acted quickly to a potentially life-threatening crash. Their actions prevented any further accidents from incoming traffic and expedited the care, saving the life of the driver of the Lincoln, who was airlifted to a trauma center. Gentlemen, great job. Thank you. And our Unit Citation Award. And I have Sergeant Deborah Fleury, Sergeant Patrick Bashan, Deputy Stephen Bukowick, Master Deputy Charisse Nixon, Deputy Tracy Hinksler, Deputy Scott Hauser, Deputy James Kraus, Deputy Jason Paquette, Deputy Anta Juan Pinkney, Deputy Elisa Suter. Are you the only one? Deputy Fuzzy Webb, and Deputy Deborah Wesley. I know Deborah's here. Somebody has to run the jail. On March 21st, 2014, during the Day 1 squad shift, the fiber optic line to the computer system had been severed, and Sergeant Fleury's booking staff was told the system would be down for an undetermined amount of time. Booking staff immediately went into action, making hard copies of the booking screens and processing information by hand, a process many of the new booking deputies had never done. Arrangements were made to run warrant checks through the records unit. The classification unit ensured one of their staff was available to enter court notes for inmates being released and assisted booking with sorting and compartmentalizing folders according to inmate requirements. At shift change, the computer system was still inoperable, and Night 1 Squad 4 was advised as to the procedures. Around 8:30 p.m., preparations were made to conduct verifiable standing head count in the event computers were not restored. At 10:30 p.m., the computer systems were restored, and the tedious work of entering all hard copy information began, as well as a methodical plan to have inmates brought to booking for their photographs and wristbands. By 3:45, all of the work resulted from the computer outage was caught up, and booking began processing inmates that had arrived during their shift. Full recovery of operations was established by 6 a.m., with booking processing a total of 34 new inmates and releasing 25 inmates without error. The effort and attitude of both the day one and night one shifts resulted in a successful end to a very stressful situation. Thank you to all. I think that's it.
Major Rothman? Sure we didn't miss anybody? I don't think so. Good morning. I'm here for to announce the civilian of the first quarter, and that is Linda Theory. I got to tell you, this is actually killing her. She won't tell you that. The agency has passed our reaccreditations with excellence. This is the direct result of Linda Theory's actions and attention to detail. This is not a process that is taken care of in just one day. It's something which is, where are you going? I mean, I got a lot to read here. It's something which is kept organized on a daily, monthly, and a yearly basis. Linda's work ethic and attention to detail, along with her devotion to the agency and her job, allowed our agency to be ranked in the highest regard. That is why we are distinguished with the Excelsior rating. This rating is not just given out to anyone. It is a ranking that very few agencies achieve. If it was not for Linda checking and double checking all areas of our agency's practices to ensure compliance with accreditation standards, we may not have obtained this distinguished ranking. Linda communicates with all our needs to members of the agency in a way that is clear, concise, relevant to each area of command. She is always willing to assist any member of the agency with any issue, even within her duty assignment. Thank you for your job. Well done. Do you want me to say anything else? Yes, again. Okay. Yes, I did. And also, Volunteer of the Quarter, David Greenberg. Mr. David Greenberg has been a volunteer with the Sheriff's Office since October of 2012. He is an active volunteer in the following areas: Citizens Operation Patrol, Savannah Club, the COP in the park, and also COP on the Marine. Dave also volunteers with our Parking Enforcement Unit. Mr. Greenberg is active with the Savannah Club Homeowners Association. He volunteers for any special assignment or function tasked to our office in the Crime Prevention Unit. Russ Cullen has stated, by the time Deputy Hoffman puts out a request for needing a volunteer, Dave has always steps up to assist the unit. Thank you for all you've done.
Good morning. Last but not least, I am here to recognize our Civilian of the Quarter from our Fleet Maintenance, Johan Rojas. Johan, come on down. Johan's been with the Sheriff's Office since 2012, and during that time he has shown himself to be a true professional and dedicated to the safety and security of the deputies who operate the vehicles that Johan works on. I think everyone would agree we have over 350 vehicles in the fleet, and we have a tremendous, amazing fleet maintenance staff. And Johan is just a shining example of one of those people that's assigned to fleet maintenance and working in the garage in this heat. It's not air conditioned. The conditions are not very special to work in, but these guys do a tremendous job. But let me just tell you a little bit about Johan. In the last 2 years, he has performed the following: 8 complete engine replacements, in excess of 40 transmission replacements, 200 brake jobs, 200 tire changes. He has disassembled 16 complete vehicles for spare parts, saving the agency thousands of dollars over of not having to send vehicles out and get replacements parts, because when we get a vehicle that's got a little bit of damage or for the mileage is high and it gets in a wreck and it's totaled, we take that car, we strip that car out completely, we take every single usable part and hold on to it so that if we get a car that needs some repairs, it's there. Johan's done 16 of these. I got to show you. This is some of the finest work you could ask for in stripping out a car. It doesn't get any better than that. And thank God he's on our side. Because if he was stripping for the other team, we'd be in trouble. In addition to that, they take call. He's handled over 100 record calls and 40 specialty wiring jobs. If you can imagine what goes into a patrol car, an unmarked car, when you have to set it up with emergency lights, siren, radios, computers, all of that type of stuff, it is very time consuming, and you have to be a dedicated, true professional to make that happen. Now, mind you, all of this takes place with emergency stuff that pops in. Somebody comes in, they got a brake light out, they got a headlight out, the wipers don't work. If it's the sheriff's car, it's out of gas, it's dirty, it's this, it's that. But again, Johan is a prime example of the quality of employees we have here at the Sheriff's Office. He's a true testament of the professionalism of fleet maintenance. And Johan, we thank you for everything you do and appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, you're up.
I love the way he phrased that, stripping for us. Who you stripping for, Chief? Nothing. No, nothing. Listen, the best part of my job is when people call me or send me letters and tell me what great work you do in our community. Since last quarterly awards, this is just a sample of the letters I received. I've picked out 3 that I want to share with you this morning. The first one you could see was handwritten from someone young, and that he was our sheriff for a day last month. Dear Sheriff Mascara, I like being sheriff for a day. I learned a lot. I like Deputy Chima. Thank you for the neat bag of goodies. I shared them with my sister and brother. Thank you for a great memory. Sincerely, Tyler Melville. He was visiting his grandfather here from West Virginia, wasn't it, Dorothy? Yeah, and he spent the day here as sheriff for a day, so really had a great time. Next one, this is from Ellen Gillette, whose son happens to work for Fort Pierce PD. Dear Sheriff Mascara, earlier this summer, my 2 grandsons, ages 11 and 8, went through the RAD program for kids. My granddaughter and I had been through the RAD training for women, so I know they would have a great experience. Watching them respond on the final evening to the bad guys, I had no idea that a real crisis would be occurring soon. Shortly after the training, a man in our neighborhood, Tyrone Edison, made an inappropriate advance on my oldest grandson, Adam, who lives with us. With RAD training still fresh in his mind, Adam immediately told him no. Fortunately, Edison was stopped and is now enjoying 3 squares a day courtesy of Rock Road Jail. Please extend to the RAD for Kids instructors our thanks again for a job well done. Additionally, the Detective Ortiz, and the deputies who responded to my 9/11 call when Adam came forward to tell us what happened exhibited compassion, concern, and professionalism. With sincere appreciation to all at the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office, Ellen Gillette. Great job. And last but definitely not least, this was sent to us via an email from a lady who actually lives in Tamarack, Florida. Dear Sheriff Mascara, I'm writing this letter to show my appreciation and gratitude to Deputy Brett Reynolds and his partner. Unfortunately, I was unable to get his name. On Saturday, I, along with my 4 children and dogs, set out for a road trip from our home in Fort Lauderdale to get my mom, who was staying in Sanford. About an hour into our trip, our car broke down approaching exit 138 on I-95. It felt like the hottest day of the year, and I was stuck with 3 children and a dog. I wasn't able to reach anyone back home. We were literally stranded. I called numerous tow truck companies who were willing to take the car but wouldn't take my kids or the dog. It was then that Deputy Reynolds arrived and his partner. I thank God they came, and when they did, it was getting hotter by the minute, and I was worried about my autistic son having a meltdown. Together, they pushed our car off the main road and waited for us until we were finally able to find a tow truck to take the car. Once that was established, I then needed to make sleeping arrangements until I could find someone to pick us up the next day. It was then that Deputy Reynolds stepped away to make a few phone calls. He came back about 3 minutes later to later notify us he's gotten permission to take us all to the nearest motel. I asked Deputy Reynolds if he could please get the kids some water. He refused to take any money, and he left stating he would be right back. Deputy Reynolds came back with not only water, but Gatorade and donuts for all the kids. I was so impressed with the quality of professionalism and service that your deputies exemplify. I feel like I can't thank him enough. It was my hope that they are both recognized in some fashion for the job they have done. They saw our physical distress and helped us immediately. They were understanding, empathetic, and kind. Their consideration meant a great deal to me and my family in time of need. Every time we thanked Deputy Reynolds, he stated, "We're just doing our job." Every once in a while, someone is special, who always goes beyond the call of duty, comes along, and Deputy Reynolds and his partner are the very best example of how police work should be done. God bless these wonderful deputies. That's what you all do each and every day, which makes me the proudest sheriff in the state. God bless you all. Thank you all to the honorees and the award winners, and we have some drinks and cookies right outside. Thank you all again.